I also ask us to act.
President Biden asking Americans to continue mask wearing and social distancing and to end what he called the politics of misinformation. The House could vote by the end of the week on the president's coronavirus economic stimulus plan over Republican claims that have nothing to do with the virus.
What Democrats are proposing and the White House is backing, say critics. Wish list of pork stuff promises. Over $1 billion for socially disadvantaged farmers. Hundreds of millions for arts, humanities, museums, and libraries. A minimum wage hike, as well as tens of millions for, quote, family planning funding, environmental and/or climate change grants. Even $100 million for rapid transit expansion in Nancy Pelosi's home district.
Fox's Kevin Corke considering the bill as a budget reconciliation.
Democrat John Yarmouth
could pass it without any Republican support. Former President Trump calling it a continuation of the biggest political witch hunt in history. The U.S. Supreme Court has refused to block efforts by prosecutors in New York State to gain access to his tax records. Boeing recommending that airlines temporarily stop flying its 777 jetliners with the type of engine that shattered in flight over Colorado on Saturday. Metal fatigue in the fan blades suspected. Wall Street Monday, NASDAQ dropped 341 points. The S&P 500 down 30. The Dow gained 27 points. America is listening to Fox News.
The vaccine is officially here, and we aren't just talking about the COVID vaccine, but a financial vaccine at Bank Pacific. We may not be doctors, but we can help you with your financial health. Whether to take advantage of today's crazy low rates, or just a local bank that has your back. At Bank Pacific, we want to help make 2021 your best year yet. Because for 66 years, where others put branches, we place roots, and we're rooting for you. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Half a day. This is Alicia Bloss from Security Title, reminding you that your 2020 property taxes are now due and payable. You may not know that you can pay your taxes online at pay.guam.gov. All you have to do is follow these simple steps. Register, log in, get a PIN, and pay. If you purchased a property after March 2nd, 2020, you will likely not receive a tax bill in your name, but you will still owe the tax. Call the professionals at Security Title. We are here to help.
The president's choice to be Attorney General facing some tough questions in his confirmation hearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee.
If confirmed as Attorney General, Merrick Garland says his role would be to represent the people of the United States.
I am not the president's lawyer. I am the United States lawyer.
Garland says he intends to sit down with Special Counsel John Durham about his investigation started during the last administration into the origins of the Russia probe.
Don't have any reason to think that he should not remain in place.
Garland says he would supervise the ongoing prosecutions of hundreds of individuals connected to last month's deadly breach of the U.S. Capitol, described by Garland as a heinous attack that sought to disrupt a cornerstone of democracy. On Capitol Hill, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
The U.S. Supreme Court has declined to stop the Manhattan District Attorney from getting former President Trump's tax records. Mr. Trump calls it a fishing expedition. But former U.S. Attorney Andrew McCarthy tells the Fox News Rundown podcast this case could present real jeopardy for the former president legally and politically.
He's going to be a lot less influential if he's under indictment and he's got to defend himself and his financial enterprise, his real estate enterprise. He's going to be considerably less influential in politics, at least until he gets himself cleared, if he can.
Hear the complete interview at foxnewsrundown.com. Texas state lawmakers will convene a hearing Thursday on why the state's power grid failed millions of Texans during last week's winter storms. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick says he thinks he knows the answer.
There was too much reliance, it appears, going into this storm from ERCOT, depending on getting wind.
Wind turbines now supply as much as 23% of the state's energy, but many of the turbines froze up in the bitter cold snap. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
76 Circle K, the Subaki Tower, and Spa Ayalam bring you another staycation. We are celebrating Mom and all she does. Win a 2-night stay at the luxurious Subaki Tower, get pampered by Spa Ayalam, and enjoy a delicious lunch and dinner at Casa Oceano. All you have to do is purchase $35 or more in 76 fuel and enter to win a staycation fit for a mom. The more you gas, the more chances of winning. Visit 76circlekguam.com or any Circle K location for more information.
Wow, nice smile. So perfect and all.
Thanks. I owe it all to Dr. Robert Yang and his smile team. They do wonders for a healthy, happy mouth.
Got teeth? Don't wait until they hurt. Schedule your routine checkup and cleaning with Dr. Yang and his smile team. Suite 119 in the East West Business Center, Upper Tumon. Call 647-8702 or 3.
The best thing that happened to teeth since toothpaste.
Dr. Yang and his smile team.
They make smiles happen.
When's the last time you looked at your homeowner's insurance?
An easily overlooked part of covering our home is what's inside of it. Over time, we buy things we don't want to lose, but don't update our contents coverage. The smart thing to do is get the answers and level up our insurance to make sure we're totally protected.
That's the Insurance Extra Point. Get out there and make something good happen today by calling Guahan Insurance Services at 475-1162 or visit us at the Camacho Landmark Center in Tamuning.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Security Title, providing solutions for complex real estate transactions. Featuring the latest special at Mezcla, Manopua, baked barbecue pork buns, Chinese-style barbecue pork in buttery pastry, $30 for a dozen. Call 479-2652 or 2653 to place your order.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Every day, I respectfully repeat the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. Ordinarily spend a little time talking about other parts of the United States Constitution, things like freedom, liberty, individual responsibility, etc. Today is no exception. Starting right out with Zemi Ikotni. So, once again, you know, a nice feel-good editorial from Off Island. No sense running local editorials in what you call a local paper. Not the Daily News. So here's the line on today's editorial. Mobilize world to produce vaccines. And it's by Zane Rizvi and Lawrence O'Gostin, guest columnists. In 2006, amid fears of a bird flu pandemic, the Bush administration launched a program to teach the world how to make a flu vaccine. We're helping countries help themselves, said one U.S. official. By the end of the program, participating manufacturers could produce 500 times as many doses. Today, we need a similar plan to help the world make a coronavirus. The pandemic is the worst crisis since World War II, but new vaccines offer hope. However, Serum Institute of India, the world's largest vaccine manufacturer, recently warned that a dose might not reach everyone around the world until 2024. President Joe Biden has the power to change this and combat vaccine scarcity by helping the world quickly manufacture vaccines. President Joe Biden. Okay, well, enough of that. Let's move on to a real editorial here in the Post, dealing with local subjects by local people for local people who care. And the Post really smacked it today. This is the title of the editorial. Lessons Not Learned. Land Trust Lease Controversy, a familiar ring from 2018. And there's a story that goes with this that I probably should read as a predicate to the editorial. And may he rest in peace. I'm going to have to do my Rush Limbaugh imitation again, respectfully, right? Rush Limbaugh used to say, you know, I don't like to talk about myself too much on the program, but this time I have to because it's about me. Pretty good.
Spot on.
Yeah. And this article ran in today's Post over the byline of a certain Refill Leon Guerrero. Now a reporter for the Post, apparently. Just goes to show you that if you can be a talk show host, the world is wide open to you. This is the title, CLTC husband-wife swap terminated once before. An improper transfer of a Chamorro Land Trust lease requested from the agency's director was already terminated by the Trust Governing Commission late last year. More information on the handling of the contract was revealed following a request from a former senator and a transparency advocate. The Guam Daily Post obtained the, quote, land agent staff report furnished to Bob Klitzkie through a Sunshine Law demand for public records. Could I toot my own horn here for a minute, Jose?
What's a toot? Go ahead.
Toot my own horn, fly my own kite, right? Cast aside modesty for the moment. I would submit that, you know, we have a real valuable tool here in our Sunshine Law. It works. It doesn't work every time. It's not perfect and it's not easy. But it is able to uncover, to shed light on areas that really need to have light shed upon them. So I do what I can with the Freedom of Information Act, and I'm so glad that we have a vigilance committee now with Lee Weber as the president to take care to run a lot of those kinds of things, because it's the only way that citizens can keep the government honest. I've mentioned before, we see this trend, well, we have a problem in the government, so let's create a government agency to deal with the problem. It never works. The only way that our government can be kept on track is if we keep it on track. The citizens, you and me and the lady next door and the kid down the block. So going on with this article, the Daily Post obtained the land agent staff report furnished to Bob Klitzkie through a Sunshine Law demand for public records. In it, a CLTC employee identifies constraints in law that limit transfers of application rights upon the death of an applicant to limited list of relatives. But according to the land agent preparing the report, in a recent commission meeting, CLTC Administrative Director Jack Haddock coerced her into accommodating this transfer, which would have had one CLTC applicant advance in front of about a year's worth of others waiting potential leases by taking over her husband's lease. There used to be a television program that described this, All in the Family. The original applicant, identified as Gerald Lee Hodges in the document released by the commission, initially turned in his request for a residential lease on January 5, 1996. According to the same report, more than 2 decades later, Hodges' wife, Katrina Bora Hodges, signed her lease for her husband's CLTC lot in Barragata. The Attorney General in 2018, following a controversy surrounding land trust leases in Barragata Heights, issued an opinion that switched or transferred leases are considered null and void, resulting in a moratorium on new leases that was only recently lifted. By December 28, 2020, the Land Trust Commission decided to terminate Hodges' lease, instead issue a right of entry for the lot until such time a lease is issued. The land agent staff report did not detail the reasons for the termination. Commission meeting minutes for this date are not available on the CLTC's or Guam Legislature's website. Oh, there might be something there that would be embarrassing. You could understand why they wouldn't want to post them. Nor is there an audio recording available at the Office of Public Accountability's website, despite local law calling for the agency to transmit or post these records. The most recent board meeting minutes published on the Commission website is September 19, 2019. The last audio recording from 2020 posted by the OPA, which is charged with posting all files, was from July 9. Last month, an official recommendation was made to, quote, approve the transfer of the application rights of Gerald Lee Hodges to Katrina Bora Hodges, despite the same report disclosing Gerald Hodges could not qualify for a CLTC lease under previous rules and that he did not wish to maintain the application toward qualification in the new regulations. Instead, the report recommends CLTC award the residential lease to Katrina Hodges, and in the process decrease her own time on the lengthy wait list for these properties. But the proposals made were not from the land agent preparing the report. CLTC Director Hattick said in a commission meeting held last Thursday that although he did not force his subordinate to make any changes, he did, however, make the report submitted and added his recommendations. Winding up, if the commission approves of the transfer of the application rights to Mrs. Hodges, she would be eligible for a lease under the original numerical designation and date and time of Mr. Hodges, so on. Well, this is really, really egregious. And I have, and I spent some time with it yesterday, the report to the land agent staff report, Chamorro Land Trust Commission Land Agent Staff Report, Switch and Transfer Lease List. Original applicant, Hodges Gerald Lee. Formal lessee, Hodges Katrina Borja. So it lays out the things that are somewhat the basis of this story. And the paper does not have a signature block on it, but it does say at the top, Land Agent Staff Report. So if you pick this up and look at it, you have every right to believe that this is a land agent staff report. I looked through it. It does not have my grandma's recipe for oatmeal cookies. It does not have the directions to the nearest 7-Eleven. It is the land agent staff report. Now, Hattick said that he made changes to the report, what was called the Hodges changes. And I'm looking at the recommendations. Motion to approve the transfer of the application and application rights of Gerald Lee Hodges to Katrina Hodges. Motion to award a residential lease for lot 5219 to Katrina Bora Hodges with the following stipulations. 1, the term of the original lease be observed, and 2, any follow-on actions be authorized. So this is what Hattick added, the recommendations. Presenting it, sending it in, as though it is the land agent staff report, because that's what it said. It doesn't say land agent staff report as modified by Jack Haddock. It says land agent staff report. So as I mentioned to Ray this morning, it's tempted me to look up the definition for forgery. And here's what we got. I'll let you decide. This is 9 GCA 4610. A person is guilty of forgery if with intent to defraud, injure anyone, or with knowledge that he is facilitating a fraud or injury to be perpetrated by anyone, he, 2, falsely completes a written instrument by transforming through adding, inserting, or changing matter an incomplete written instrument into a complete one without the authority of anyone entitled to grant it, so that the complete written instrument falsely appears or purports to be in all respects an authentic creation of an ostensible maker authorized by him. Once again, Chamorro Land Trust Commission land agent staff report. And here's the second definition. 3, falsely alters a written instrument by change without authorization by anyone entitled to grant it of a written instrument, whether complete or incomplete, by means of erasure, obliteration, deletion, insertion of new matter, etc., or in any other matter, so that the instrument so alters appears or purports to be in all respects an authentic creation of its ostensible maker or authorized by him. Does that sound like forgery to you, Jose?
Down the list.
Yeah. And so what we have then is Haddock confessing in a public open meeting that he forged this report. I didn't coerce her, but I added some stuff to the report.
He even added that he's not even an agent.
Yeah. He doesn't have anybody to supervise the agents, so he's got to forge these reports himself. I mean, deal with these reports himself.
I'm not an agent, but I play one on documents.
Yeah. And he did not change the identification on top, land agent staff report. So we have then what appears to be Jack Haddock confessing in an open meeting of the Land Trust Commission to forging this document, which everybody, I mentioned the gentleman out there in the curb probably could tell you, no, you can't swap places in line. And anyone who didn't know that would tell you if Gerald Hodges's applicant was ineligible, then he doesn't have anything to transfer to his wife. And here's Jack Haddock. Yeah, I recommend that you allow this and give him a lease. I'm surprised that they didn't fire him on the spot. And if he continues, well, nobody's perfect, and he was just trying to help the people out, etc. If he continues, then all of the distrust that arose from the Chamorro land, all of the mismanagement that occurred under Chairman Pika Feheran continues right on up now, and this is just a continuation of what we've seen before.
Does this have a danger of nullifying Mrs. Katrina Hodges' position as well? I mean, we don't hear anything about what these people in play are doing. It's almost as if we're only hearing what the Land Trust Commission is doing.
Well, when there's a common scheme or plan to do something wrong, you might very well be looking at a conspiracy.
Like, my name is in the paper. Let's cut this out now.
Yeah. Okay, so now that you have the background here, I'm going to turn to the editorial. In April 2018, a torrent of muddy stormwater cascaded from elevated areas in Barragata Heights, causing flooding to residential areas in lower Barragata. A look into the cause of the flooding led to the discovery of what certain land management officials had been up to. It turned out government parcels in the area were being awarded under leases to certain people, which also led to the government using public resources to topple trees and clear the area for utility lines, which then led to the flooding. This happenstance also led to the public revelation that certain well-connected Chamorro Land Trust lease applicants were given $1 a year leases in prime spots in sought-after Barragata Heights. The controversy further led to the discovery that many land lease applicants for parcels all over Guam, who have waited for their land leases for decades, have been skipped. They were skipped in favor of certain individuals and families who were further back in the decades-long line, using what's called switching of spots. Some leases were granted without the Chamorro Land Trust Commission approval, which was another reason for certain leases to be deemed void. Then Attorney General Elizabeth Barrett Anderson ultimately determined that leases without commission approval were voidable, and leases obtained after individuals switched application rights were null and void. The only time a lease applicant can move up on the wait list for land trust leases is when they are substituting for a family member applicant who died while waiting. Land management learned in a prior legal review. The fiasco led to more than 100 leases considered void. After the controversy, the Department of Land Management and the Chamorro Land Trust Management functions were split. You'd think the management of Chamorro Land Trust would learn from the mistakes just a few years ago. But based on the information discussed at a commission meeting last week, another switching of lease applications has come to light. Jack Hattick, 3. I guess it's happened a couple of times before. Administrative Director of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission was placed on the spot on that meeting, and well, he should have been. A land agent with the commission said she felt Hattick coerced her into accommodating a request to transfer one land trust applicant's place on the wait list to another person who is further down the line, even when such a switch is forbidden. The case involves a request to transfer an application from a husband to his wife so that she can obtain his date of December 1995. That would allow her to be eligible for a lease issuance, Hattick said Thursday. The wife also applied for the Chamorro Land Trust program, but her application came in a year later. The problem is, while the husband was ahead in line, he wasn't qualified for a land trust lease to begin with. Nicholas Toft, the CLTC legal counsel, said he did not believe the commission had legal authority to transfer land trust lease applications right while the original applicant is still alive. In the meeting last week, Hattick apologized to land agent Lydia Talou and the commission, but said he did not force Talou to make any changes. Hattick did admit that he took the report submitted by Talou and added his recommendation for approval of the switch. There, talk about a smoking gun. A confession, a public confession before his bosses on the commission. She did present me with her disagreement, but I also said I think this is an option that should be presented to the commission. And if we are able to do it, well, then so be it. If we can get away with it, fine. If we're not able to do it, and it looks like Attorney Toft has already opined that we're not able to do it, then at least we know. You got to get caught 4 or 5 times. You got to get caught 4 or 5 times with your hand in the cookie jar before you know that it's not right to steal cookies, right?
Or you can upload the book that says "Don't Steal Cookies" laws and read about them.
Yeah. Anyone who works at the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, more so the administrator, should know what the law and rules are. And to attempt to get the commission to sign off on something that A, the law forbids, and B, the person giving up his so-called spot in the wait list wasn't qualified for the program, should have been enough to put the brakes on this Barragata lease. And it should have been enough to put the brakes on Jack Hattick. With Hattick's attitude to try and skirt the integrity of the land trust application project, which he's supposed to uphold, what other laws and rules are not being followed at the commission? If he's going to play fast and loose with this one, check your petty cash. Did you have a Super Bowl pool? How did it come out? The scarier part of this repeated failure at the commission is the lack of response from government officials who can hold Hattick accountable. If it weren't for Bob Klitzkie, we might not even know about this. The governor and senators on the legislative committee that has oversight over the commission and the public lands did not seem to be moved by this mistake. From them, there is silence so far. No one at this level will be held accountable. If no one at this level will be held accountable, the public can only wonder if there will ever be some degree of accountability in our local government. Exactly. If the Chamorro Land Trust Commission tolerates this, then they might as well all resign, because we don't need 7 people at $50 a month to come up there and allow this kind of shenanigan to take place. All right, let's take a short break.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
You've heard of double mile credit card rewards? You can forget all about that. At First Hawaiian Bank, we're stepping it up. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not even 4 times. You guessed it. First Hawaiian Bank is giving you 5 times the miles. Use your First Hawaiian Bank credit card and get rewarded 5 miles for every dollar spent with qualifying purchases at grocery stores. Plus 20,000 bonus miles. Learn more at any First Hawaiian Bank branch or go to FHB.com to apply today. First Hawaiian Bank. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
We now return to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, soaring over the confusion with his superpowers of truth. Call 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
No surprise, the Blues gets the coveted Blue Star for today. And this is what we expect from local newspapers. Pacific Daily News, not running boilerplate from Gannett News Service, but actually getting in, calling, making the hard call, holding people to account, etc. That's what local newspapers do with their editorial pages. Okay, let's go from there to the Card. And here's my summary for the Card. Let's see, that's number 243 for the Post to 57 for the Daily News. Therese Terlahi, Speaker Therese Terlahi takes on the governor on Bill 11. The governor shows an exquisite sense of timing by taking us to P-Core 3 at 1700 on Wednesday. In politics, timing is everything. We don't need bad cops on the police force. That gets us down to, let's see, what was his name? Hang on just a second here. I'm having a Biden moment. Mark Tory. Yeah. Mark Tory. And then Laura Sauter continues as the champion of the Chamorro language, and she has an even bigger Oedipus complex than yesterday. And then I'm finally going to get to Sabina and Tello, who are trying to put Ghostbusters out of business. Okay, starting out with Therese versus the governor. And this deals with Bill 11. I start out with a story that ran in the Daily News. Lawmakers on Monday narrowly voted to approve Bill 11, which would limit the governor's ability to declare and extend a public health emergency. Now, it's a strange sentence. The bill was supported by only 8 of the 15 lawmakers. Only 8.
That's how it passes.
How many do you need for a bill to pass, Jose?
8.
Only 8?
Only 8.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Only 8 people, only 8 senators could pass the bill. Which means if the governor vetoes it, her veto likely will stand and the bill will not become law. It takes 10 votes to defeat the governor's veto. This is almost like a civics lesson. The bill, written by Senator Chris Duenas, would prohibit the governor from extending a public health emergency for longer than 90 days without legislative approval. It also would allow lawmakers to vote to cancel a declared public health emergency if there is no longer high probability of death, serious disability, or substantial harm. Wrong. They got the 8 part right. They got the rest of it wrong. It doesn't work that way. Unless there is an affirmative vote of 8 members, the emergency ends. It doesn't take any positive action from the legislature at all. The 90-day period only applies to the beginning of a particular emergency. We're way past the beginning of an emergency. So the declaration of emergency that expires around the end of this month, if that were the law, the legislature doesn't have to do anything. The legislature could do what the 35th was so good at, not even meet, and the emergency ends, because it takes an affirmative act on the part of the legislature to allow the emergency to continue. So, Daily News, you got it wrong. Governor Leon Guerrero said she believes the bill was an attempt to insert the legislature into executive branch operations, which could unnecessarily slow the response to imminent public health threats. Now, I got to comment on that for a moment. Do we have an emergency exit here in this building, Jose?
Yes, we do.
Where is it?
It's right on this wall here.
Yeah. How often do you use it?
Well, it's an exit also, but during an emergency, haven't yet used it, but it's there.
It's there.
Yeah.
So an emergency exit is not one that you use just for regular coming and going, right?
No.
No. It would require something kind of out of the ordinary for you to use the emergency exit, right?
An emergency.
Something like an emergency, yeah. So when the governor is given emergency powers, that doesn't mean, okay, governor, you've got these emergency powers right on down to the point where we go a whole year without anyone being affected by the Wuhan virus. That's not what emergency means. Emergency means you use it during an emergency, which is something that comes on, something that is unanticipated and out of the ordinary. Like if all of a sudden you saw a fire burning in the studio here, that would
immediacy.
Yeah, and immediacy. If you see me in here just jabbering, that is not an emergency. That's normal, right? So that's what an emergency means. And the statute that she's working on, Chapter 19 of Title 10, is set up to deal with emergencies. It is not set up to create a new regular routine, which is what the governor thinks it is, a new regular routine. So as hard as I've been on the governor, I could understand the first 30 days, maybe the second 30 days. It was an emergency. It was a surprise. It was something new. It was something we'd never seen before, something we'd never dealt with before, something that took extreme measures. Is it that way now? Hell no. So this continued declaration of emergency for 30-day periods, I'm going to evaluate it. The governor is power mad. She likes the power. And Wuhan virus or no Wuhan virus, she's going to hang on to it as long as she can. And that's wrong. If you look at our Chapter 19, it was a model act. And you can tell just by reading it that my analysis is correct. It's not supposed to be a new way of government to operate. And that's what she has created, a new way for government to operate. I'm going to suspend this if I don't like it. We're going to junk the procurement rules. And I found this new way of operating that I like a whole lot better than the old way. One, I don't have to horse around with the legislature. And two, I can get away with a lot of stuff. So I'm with the senators on Bill 11. It's time to put an end to this sort of thing.
Bill 11 actually also strengthens that statute that allows the health emergency to end via the legislature, because that could be used as a political tool, because it's just a resolution that requires 8 people to write 8 or 10? 8 people to stop a health emergency in the statute. But the bill requires the legislature to extend it.
Yeah.
It doesn't just require them to move on a resolution.
Yeah. So so the governor is quite comfortable, apparently, with her emergency, and she's come up with all kinds of reasons that the bill is bad, but mostly the number one reason is because she doesn't like it. She's much more comfortable where she is with all of this magic powers, like the ability to go out and set up roadblocks out on Marine Corps. Governor, no one is ever going to forget that. And whenever you start grousing about the words arbitrary and capricious, that's the first thing that people are going to tell you. If you weren't arbitrary and capricious, what did you mean by blocking traffic on Marine Corps Drive all day long? So, so Bill 11 is properly constructed, and it's exactly what we need, because what the governor should have done, she should have kept her emergency powers for the first 60 days. By that time, she would have had enough time to figure out what kind of legislation she needed. She could have asked for that legislation and ended the emergency and gone at this in a much more workmanlike approach. But what did she do? She got her son-in-law going out and leasing hotels. Will we ever forget the 19th floor? You know, she bends the procurement rules all over the place. She does away with the open government law. It has been tyrannical, and for no reason whatsoever. So back to this article. The Chamber of Commerce and the Guam Realtors both endorsed the bill. During debate last week, lawmakers who oppose the bill stated it's unnecessary because the law already includes a provision that allows a public health emergency to be canceled. Well, I think maybe you're looking at more responsible senators than that. Senators, like I've heard Chris say publicly, I'm not interested in playing chicken with the governor, because if they end the emergency, all of those powers are gone, boom, like overnight. It's like the way the Green New Deal folks want to go out and switch to the Model T Ford and kill all the horses. So Bill 11 is a more nuanced approach because it requires the governor to come over and make her case to the legislature. And if she can do that, then she can have more emergency. If she can't, she can't. If they went with the Bob and Ray resolution, it's over like that. Now, if she vetoes Bill 11, she may be begging for the Bob and Ray resolution. Now, the article goes on to say, the 8-7 vote on the bill was mostly along party lines, with nearly all Republicans except Mary Torres supporting it, and nearly all Democrats except Speaker Terlahi opposing it. Nice sentence. Which Republican other than Mary Torres voted for the bill? Mostly along party lines.
You know, as an aside, and as a tangent, during the impeachment trials of Trump, you had how many Republican representatives voted to impeach him? Out of 100, and how many Republicans?
You mean to convict?
To convict him, yes.
Yeah. 10.
10.
Yeah.
They called that bipartisan.
Yeah. Right.
So by all means, this was a bipartisan vote.
It was, but let's analyze it for a minute here. So Mary Torres, who is nominally a Republican, I understand she has a designer working on a new crest for herself, and the key feature in the crest, and she's voted with the Democrats before, so this time it's not so much that she's voting with the Democrats as is she's supporting the governor. Now, I wonder if that has anything to do with the bill that she has championed that would allow for reciprocity of nurses.
Interesting.
Uh-huh. So, you know, is it Mary Torres not wanting to go along with Bill 11 so as to not anger the governor when she gets the nurses bill in front of her? And then we had Speaker Therese Terlahi, who, of course, is a Democrat. But if you remember my analysis of how Therese Terlahi got to be Speaker, she is a Democrat, but you can't expect her to carry a whole lot of water for the governor. Without going into all the details, I think Therese Terlahi is a Speaker because of some skillful politicking by Republicans. So the Democrats, rather than having a floor fight over who gets to be the Speaker when they're the majority, and my analysis told Tina Rose Munya Barnes, the Speaker, it's kind of like from On the Waterfront, this ain't your night, kid. Yeah, we're going for the price on Terlahi. So, yeah, we know you could have been a contender, but we'll give you a lot of nice stuff, Tina. We'll give you chairman of the rules, and we know that's where the power is. We'll make you we'll get rid of Talina. We'll make you vice speaker. And if you really want to bring the fourth branch of government back, we'll even toss that into the pot. 2 future draft choices. Yeah, it's kind of like Major League Baseball and trading season, right? So Therese perhaps has some affinity to the Republicans, whether one would call it gratitude, loyalty, quid pro quo,
common sense,
etc. And then Therese has made no secret about not liking the way the governor's been spending the money that comes in from the Fed. So it wasn't a surprise at all that Therese went with the Republicans on this. And not that much of a surprise either that Mary Torres did, because Mary Torres is not playing against type.
This is where I see Therese Terlahi's vote as important, because she was the one that removed the language, or asked to remove the language of arbitrary and capricious.
Uh-huh.
But she still said, we need this bill. We need this law.
Uh-huh.
So I really applaud her for that.
Yeah. So this is what politics in the legislature is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be a group of skillful people who understand subtlety, who have a feeling for the law, have clear ideas of where they want to go with their offices, and work towards those ideas. So Therese has distinguished herself as kind of the champion here of the legislative process, starting in the last legislature. Now, does that possibly open other doors for Therese Terlahi? And does Therese Terlahi going against the governor on Bill 11, does that have anything to do with a possible governor, Therese Terlahi? Laying the foundation for saying, I've been independent, even when I have not been in Governor Leon Guerrero's pocket. Well, let's take a short break and we'll come back and analyze this a little bit more.
Hey, big news! Now you can listen to The Point on radio.com. And radio.com gives you so much more. Local news stations give you what's going on in your community. Get national news from CBS, CNN, or Fox News Radio. Take a break with one of the hundreds of music, sports, and talk stations. Love podcasts? Radio.com has thousands of true crime, comedy, kids and family podcasts, and more. Listen anytime, anywhere. On your PC, smart speakers, and a variety of connected devices. Or download the Radio.com app now from the App Store or Google Play.
Sunday brunch at Mezcla Bistro in Hagåtña is back, hotter than before.
Come and enjoy Mezcla's true taste of Guam.
At only $28.95, enjoy your Sunday with your friends and family with their free-flowing house mimosa or house draft beer from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Let Mezcla serve up your favorite local foods. Call them at 479-2652
or 479-2653 to book a reservation. Limited seating available.
Mezcla reminds everyone to be safe and stay sanitized. Sunday brunch at Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
Okay, so some analysis there about who did what to whom and for what reason. Now, here's something that most people don't understand about vetoes. The legislature passes a bill with only 8 votes. They could do that with only 8 votes.
Just 8.
Yeah. It goes to the governor. She's got 10 days, Sundays accepted, to sign the bill into law, allow it to become law without her signature, or veto it. If she vetoes it, she writes V-E-T-O on it and sends it back to the legislature. And that's what the Organic Act says, returns it to the legislature with her comments. And then the legislature has the ability to override the governor's veto to make the bill law, notwithstanding the governor's objection. But they need a supermajority to do it. Instead of 8 votes, they need 10 votes to do it. Okay, so if Bill 11 passed yesterday, let's assume it was transmitted maybe today. Today is the 23rd. That takes us up to around March the 4th, I think, something like that. The governor has that much time to do something with it, and let's say it hits her desk. Let's say the governor's sitting there with her pen in her hand, ready to pounce, and as soon as it hits her desk, you're veto, right? and then sends it back to the Speaker of the Legislature. How long does the legislature have to override that veto, and how many times can they try to do it? Answer, till the very end of the legislature, and as many as they want.
So who brings the vote to the floor?
Any member can bring it to the floor. The Rules Committee can put it on the agenda, or any member can bring it to the floor during that part of the agenda called motions. So, if you're the governor and you really hate Bill 11 and you understand the sword of Damocles, every time you look up, what do you see hanging up there by a very thin thread, ready to drop on your head? Bill 11. So well, I'm going to say when the governor vetoes this, it has a couple of effects. One, it empowers every one of the Democrats, because every one of the Democrats is armed with a very well-sighted rifle that they could shoot at the governor. You know, you don't want to sign my bill? How do you spell override? Or if the governor is heavy-handed in such a manner that any one of the Democrats don't like, you know, a message could go, Governor, you keep on like that, we're overriding Bill 11. Or if the governor does something really stupid again, do you need a lot of imagination for this one? Something really stupid like putting roadblocks back on Marine Corps Drive? Much easier, in one way, it's much easier to round up 2 people for an override than it is to round up 8 to pass the bill in the first place. It all depends on how the governor handles the magical powers that the legislature wants to take away from her. The other effect is that it will tend to build bridges between the Republicans and the Democrats, because Republicans who are interested in Bill 11, that would be everybody but Mary Torres, of course.
Like he said.
Yeah.
All the Republicans.
Yeah. Almost all the Republicans, right? You know, are going to be chatting up the Democrats and saying, you know, you got anything out there? Are you trying to move anything along that I might not be too objectionable about, or something like that? You want me to co-sponsor? You know, all of these little niceties and log-rolling devices will be in play so that the Republicans can build up enough strength to override that veto. So it's not as though the governor says, I vetoed it, that's it, we don't need to think about it anymore. No, the game is not over. The game is still on. It's just shifted to a different set of tactics. There's something kind of interesting that came up here. I heard about it on Ray's show. I'll come back to that right after the big halftime show.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Marking a coronavirus milestone. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. Candles lit, a military band played Amazing Grace, and a moment of silence at the White House Monday evening, marking 500,000 U.S. deaths blamed on the coronavirus.
While we've been fighting this pandemic for so long, we have to resist becoming numb to the sorrow. We have to resist viewing each life as a statistic or a blur or on the news. We must do so to honor the dead.
President Biden ordering flags lowered to half staff at federal facilities for the balance of the week to remember the victims. The House could pass the president's $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package in that time frame. It's expected to be voted out of a House committee as early as Tuesday. Also this week, the Food and Drug Administration will consider authorizing the emergency use of Johnson & Johnson's investigational coronavirus vaccine. The company says it plans to deliver 20 million doses to the U.S. within a month of getting the go-ahead. Boeing telling airlines to stop flying its 777 jets as the National Transportation Safety Board investigates what caused a catastrophic engine failure on Saturday.
The NTSB is investigating the possibility 2 of the engine's hollow fan blades played a part. None of the 231 passengers and 10 crew members were hurt. Boeing says it is suspending operations of all its 777s with the Pratt & Whitney 400-112 engines while this investigation is underway.
Fox's Alicia Acuna, a different aircraft, a Delta Airlines 757 diverted to Salt Lake City Monday on an Atlanta to Seattle flight after a cockpit indicator suggested possible engine troubles. A tough day for tech stocks on Monday. Shares in Microsoft fell while Apple and Tesla both underperformed. The tech-heavy NASDAQ index dropped 341 points. America is listening to Fox News.
Half a day. This is Alicia Bloss from Security Title, reminding you that your 2020 property taxes are now due and payable. You may not know that you can pay your taxes online at pay.guam.gov. All you have to do is follow these simple steps. Register, log in, get a PIN, and pay. If you purchased a property after March 2nd, 2020, you will likely not receive a tax bill in your name, but you will still owe the tax. Call the professionals at Security Title. We are here to help.
The vaccine is officially here, and we aren't just talking about the COVID vaccine, but a financial vaccine at Bank Pacific. We may not be doctors, but we can help you with your financial health. Whether to take advantage of today's crazy low rates, or just a local bank that has your back. At Bank Pacific, we want to help make 2021 your best year yet. Because for 66 years, where others put branches, we place roots, and we're rooting for you. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
A sweeping criminal reform bill in Illinois has been signed into law by Governor Pritzker.
The new law will abolish the cash bail system as well as require police agencies in the state to equip officers with body cameras, and it strictly defines use of force rules for police. The criminal justice overhaul was designed by the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus after the deaths of George Floyd in Minneapolis and Breonna Taylor in Kentucky. Opponents say the rules will hamstring police, but after signing the measure, Governor J.B. Pritzker said the bill actually protects officers and it will give funding for mental health training. Jill Nato, Fox News.
The former head of the U.S. Capitol Police and the former sergeants-at-arms of both the House and the Senate will testify before Congress on Tuesday about what went wrong at the Capitol building on January 6th, the day of the riot. All 3 have since resigned. Attorney General designate Judge Merrick Garland telling his Senate confirmation hearing Monday.
If confirmed, I will supervise the prosecution of white supremacists and others who stormed the Capitol on January 6th, a heinous attack that sought to disrupt a cornerstone of our democracy, the peaceful transfer of power to a newly elected government.
Judge Garland dodged Republican senators' questions, though, about the Durham investigation into the Trump-Russia probe origins and whether crossing the border illegally should remain a criminal offense. First the Washington football team, then the Cleveland baseball team. Now a well-known Detroit-made vehicle may have to change its name. As first reported by Car and Driver magazine, the chief of the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma wants Jeep to stop using the term Grand Cherokee for its SUV. The Jeep spokesperson says the name has been nurtured over the years to honor and celebrate Native American people for their nobility, prowess, and pride. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
76 Circle K, the Subaki Tower, and Spa Ayalam bring you another staycation. We are celebrating Mom and all she does. Win a 2-night stay at the luxurious Subaki Tower, get pampered by Spa Ayalam, and enjoy a delicious lunch and dinner at Casa Oceano. All you have to do is purchase $35 or more in 76 fuel and enter to win a staycation fit for a mom. The more you gas, the more chances of winning. Visit 76circlekguam.com or any Circle K location for more information.
Subway's got your flavorful, fresh choices this Lenten season. Sink your teeth into the succulent goodness of Subway's shrimp and guacamole spinach wrap, or go plant-based with Subway's crisp on the outside and generously spiced on the inside veggie patty, or enjoy the classic tuna sub, made with 100% wild-caught tuna, all made with freshly baked breads and topped with garden-fresh vegetables. Get in today at any of Subway's convenient locations. Subway, make it what you want.
Listen to The Point. Any speaker, anytime. Check us out on your FM radio at 93.3, 104.3 HD3, thepoint.gu, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and tune in. And announcing radio.com. Download the app and hear The Point. Get the latest news, sports, entertainment, and more.
On demand.
Your phone is digital. Your life is digital. And we are too. 93.3, The Point.
Another truly great halftime show here on Tall Tales. They seem to get better every single day. Before the break, at the end of the first half, I was talking about Bill 11 and giving some analyses concerning the players in Bill 11. And now I have before me a letter that I think is quite poignant that I want to read into the record, and it segues nicely into the next item on the card. Dear Senators Paris, Rigel, Munya Barnes, San Augustine, Shelton, P. Terlahi, and Taurus. Thank you for receiving my email, and I asked for your reconsideration. I think Bill 1136 is good. The issue here is not about whether the legislature can end a public health emergency, but this bill creates a much-needed checks and balances, which is much needed in an honest government. Our island is good because of our people, and the people expect the checks and balances so the power is not abused. I've been on Guam for nearly 25 years and made positive impact on healthcare, which I will continue to do. During this pandemic, it is not about the speed to which the response was. It should have been about the correct actions taken, in which many inputs matter and not just the select few who are close to ad loop, and financial conflict involved among many in this public health emergency was dictated. For example, this Wednesday is the governor's fundraiser for her reelection, $500 each at the Hyatt. If we are truly in a public health emergency, what is she doing hosting and asking people for $500? If we are truly in a state of public health emergency, the optics of what is scheduled for Wednesday night's political fundraiser would be deemed non-essential and inappropriate. I hope you will reconsider your vote to yes on Bill 11. Mahalo, Thomas Shea, MD. So I guess when Thomas got up off his knee for Black Lives Matter, he his interest somewhat changed, and now he's on the right side of things. Welcome aboard, Tom. Glad to have you with us. And Tom, of course, like everybody else is saying, $500 fundraiser in times like this. And the optics. Now, of course, what that is saying is this. Politicians hold fundraisers. And politicians hold fundraisers way, way in advance of the election. This is no exception. But you can kind of tell a little bit about the politician by the way he structures his fundraisers and the way he promotes his fundraisers. You know, quite often you have someone saying, can you come to our fundraiser down at the so-and-so, $25 for a ticket. Can you buy a ticket from me? Sometimes 50, maybe even 100, right? And the message that the politician is sending out there is, I know that people who aren't what we would call wealthy are going to support me. And that's why I've set my prices there. I'm appealing to Joe Sixpack and his brother and his cuñado. But when the governor says, for my fundraiser, it's $500, what she's doing is saying, I'm keeping the price high in order to keep the trash out. That's what she's doing. I don't want every man there. I don't want Joe Sixpack. You know, I don't want plain everyday average people. I only want high rollers, people with big bucks, people who can reach in their pocket and pull out $1,000 for themselves and their wife. Well, let me back up on that. People who can reach in their pocket and pull out $1,000 for themselves and their spouses, whatever sex they may be, right?
Their pockets.
Yeah, their pockets. That's who I'm looking for at my fundraiser. I don't want any of this nickel-dime crowd coming around here. If they want to contribute, there'll be other times when they can contribute, but this is not for them. This is for the manakilu, the people who have a lot of money and a lot of influence, because these are the people that I want to have on my side. That's the message that she's sending out with this. Tom used the word optic. That's the first optic that appeals to me. That this is, hey, Bob, this is not for you. This is $500. This is not $50. Otherwise, I'd have probably gone, right?
Well,
I
might be washing my hair that weekend.
Yeah, it's probably time for me to change the paper in the bottom of my bird cage.
Don't you need to get a bird first?
Probably. So here's the announcement in the Post, or the story in the Post. Governor Leon Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio's 2022 re-election campaign committee will hold a $500 per person fundraiser on Wednesday, 3 days into Guam's return to pandemic condition of readiness 3. But you missed the boat, Post. It's not 3 days into condition 3. It's the same day that she lifted the restriction on bars. The restriction on bars, cocktail bars, etc., ends at 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And what time does her cocktail party start? 5:30. And as Ray pointed out yesterday, or maybe it was this morning, the tickets for this thing have been in place for quite some time. So let's pick the date, let's print the tickets, but let's keep the chokehold on the bars right up until the last minute. And then a half an hour before our fundraiser is supposed to start, well, then we'll like Pinehoff in that game. They haven't got $500 to spend on this. Then we'll do that. But we're going to keep that chokehold on the bars right up until that time. Nice planning, Governor. Great coordination. The story goes on to say PCOR 3 limits social gatherings to 25 persons. There will be a limit of 23 persons allowed in the venue for each of the 4 slots, in addition to the governor and lieutenant governor. 23 plus 2, 25. And let's see.
You didn't even need the Cabrera sliding scale to calculate that.
That's true. We are, quote, we are complying with all Department of Public Health and Social Services guidelines. It's not a sit-down dinner and not a buffet-style gathering. People are required to observe. What is it then? One of those no lunches? People are required to observe social distancing. Masks are required, and temperatures will be checked. Attorney Anita Areola, chairperson of the fundraiser committee of the committee to re-elect Leon Guerrero Tenorio, said on Monday. So it's not a sit-down dinner. It's not buffet style. So I suppose you'll be able to walk around. There'll be peanuts and olives and stuff like that.
You probably can't walk around. You probably got to stay at your table and they'll walk around.
That's very possible. Yeah, they've got to have these big marks on the floor, big circles that say 6 feet, right? The cocktail fundraiser will be held at Rosie's Tavern. No, that's not right. Al Dente at Hyatt in Tumon from 5:30 to 9 p.m. The committee to re-elect Leon Guerrero Tenorio said due to Wuhan virus restrictions, there will be a limit of 23 persons allowed in the venue for the following slots. So you could go from 5:30 to 6:15 for $500. 6:15 to 7, $500. 7 to 7:45, 7:45 to 8:15. I suppose if you really wanted to have a good time, you could pony up $2,000 and go to all 4 of them. That way you wouldn't have to be going in and out all the time, right? But how clever, not having one fundraiser, having 4 fundraisers. On social media, people were commenting on the timing of the campaign fundraiser in the middle of a public health emergency. Areola said these are understandable concerns, and the campaign committee will do everything it can to comply with public health guidelines to keep people safe. Donald Trump, you know what a Donald Trump would do with something like this, Jose? A Donald Trump would say, I'd really like to have a campaign fundraiser, but I'm not going to, so I'm going to donate $1 million to help people out. That's what a Donald Trump would do. There are many people, here's another quote from Anita Areola. There are many people who support the governor and lieutenant governor, so are we holding this fundraiser to support their re-election? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out, does it?
I wonder if this is to help defray the cost of some ACLU lawyers.
You wonder.
There's another interesting point about this. These things don't just happen overnight. You said that they put the ticket prices out there. This is a good example of why we need Bill 11 passed into law. It does seem kind of arbitrary that PCOR 3 is called, bars are going to open, and voila, there's going to be a fundraiser at a bar.
Yeah, a half an hour after it's okay to do it. Yeah.
Yep.
A very good argument for Bill 11. Areola cited Guam's very low Wuhan virus area risk score. I guess that's the Cabrera score, huh? According to the Joint Information Center, as Sunday night is 0.2, as well as having at least 47,640 people who have received 1 or 2 Wuhan virus vaccination shots and a death rate that's lower than many parts of the nation. There's an outpouring of support and generosity for the governor and lieutenant governor. An outpouring of generosity for the governor? Leon Guerrero is the first Democrat governor in 16 years. She started her term as governor in January 2019. The governor and lieutenant governor's 2022 re-election team filed their organizational report with the Election Commission on October 23, 2019, so they could start raising funds for election. Their first fundraiser was at the Hyatt on October 16, 2019. When Wuhan virus hit, the fundraisers paused. There was also a virtual fundraiser during the lieutenant governor's recent birthday. As for the Republican Party of Guam, there is no official candidate for governor yet to challenge the Democrats' Leon Guerrero. And up until Chris came along, there was no Republican to challenge the governor for anything. Yeah. Well, gosh, I guess I'm not going to be able to go. It would interfere with Tall Tales. So we'll be watching this like a hawk, and I'm so impressed with the governor's generosity in this. Next item on the card, bad cops versus GPD. We have bad cops in the Guam Police Department, and we seem to have a great reluctance to do anything about them. We had a police officer named Dennis Santos, I've talked about before, was driving an official at midnight, hit somebody else, $12,000 worth of damage. He was drunk. He was arrested. A little late last year, he was sentenced to 5 days in jail, and as far as we know, he's still on the police force. I wonder if maybe he even got paid during the time he was in jail. He was on duty. He was assigned to the correctional facility. So we have had bad cops. Now, this story ran in the Post. Former cop will get gun back after acquitted of negligent homicide. Former Guam police officer Mark Torrey Jr. will have his gun back after his acquittal, which is fair. Torrey was acquitted of negligent homicide and other charges in the shooting death of his fellow officer, Albert Piolo. A Superior Court of Guam jury returned with a not guilty verdict on November 23. The jury's prior decision was filed by a judgment of acquittal issued in the Superior Court on February 19. Judge Arthur Barcenas, in the February 19 decision, ordered the return of a Glock 27 pistol, magazine and ammunition, passport, and firearms ID to Torrey. The gun was part of the evidence in the case, since Torrey was accused of using it to kill Piolo. His bail was also exonerated, which means he doesn't owe the bail anymore, according to Barcenas' order. Now, here's the last sentence in this story. And I don't quite know if I should blame the Post for this or what, but this is what it says. It wasn't clear if Torrey Jr. will get his job back at the Guam Police Department. It wasn't clear. Well, that wouldn't be up to Judge Barcenas. Who is it going to be up to? It's going to be up to Steve Ignacio, probably the least transparent police chief we've ever had. So I'm going to put my vote in right now. I don't want Mark Torrey back on the police force in any capacity. I don't want him to work as a civilian around the police department. And I'll tell you why. In open court, we learned that Torrey and Piolo went out the night before Piolo died and got so drunk that Torrey said he blacked out at the time that Piolo was shot. He didn't know what happened. Now, cops carry their firearms at all times. Yeah. And cops are cops 24 hours a day. If you're a sworn officer and you see a burglary in progress, you don't say, I clocked out 2 hours ago. I hope somebody else catches him. So this guy was out getting so hammered that he was blacked out at the time that another police officer was shot to death. Now, I notice I didn't say who shot him. Does it matter? It really doesn't matter. That's not what we expect from a police officer. When another police officer is shot, the other, Tory should have been wide awake and taken whatever action was necessary to stop that from happening. Now, there was one theory of the case, and I think Tory advanced this, that Piolo committed suicide. It doesn't matter. And Tory should have tried to do something to interdict that. If they were struggling with the firearm, and Tory is so smashed that he doesn't remember it, same result. Tory doesn't come out of this at all. He doesn't come out as the kind of person that we want to see carrying a gun on official duty, because he had his chance and he really screwed it up bad. Now, I can hear all the, well, you know, he was proven innocent in the trial, so you got to give him his job back. No, he was not proven innocent. The jury found him not guilty. That's the way our system works. We don't find people innocent. The way the criminal justice system is set up, a jury must find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant in that case did what he was accused of doing without excuse or defense. Beyond a reasonable doubt. So a jury, you know, if you could look inside the jurors' heads, they could say, yeah, I'm 70% sure that what happened, you know, he did it. Not good enough. So the fact that Tory got off on a criminal trial, that the jury found him not guilty, it's not something he's going to put on his resume when he goes to apply to be a sheriff's deputy in Phoenix. I was found not guilty by a jury in Guam. Yeah, no. So this will be a test for both Tory and for Chief Ignacio. Now, I don't want to sound totally unsympathetic to Tory. You know, he really screwed up. He really screwed up. He's got a lot of life ahead of him. He ought to try to make something of his life. I just don't want him to do it in the Guam Police Department. Other than that, I wish the guy well, but not in the Guam Police Department. Chief Ignacio, if you take this guy back, then you might just as well open the doors of the police department and say, crooks wanted. There's no difference between the folks that work here and the folks that they're supposed to be busting. Now, I'm still curious about this. It wasn't clear if Tory will get his job back. Wasn't clear. So what happened that would make it not clear? If the judge didn't say anything and there was absolutely nothing said by anybody, how could it not be clear? Not clear to the reporter, maybe, huh? Maybe the reporter thinks, well, yeah, maybe he'll get his job back. That's not what reporters do. Reporters don't insert their own thought process like animate car, you know, some people are saying. So it wasn't clear if Tory will get his job back. Bad journalism, bad reporting.
It wasn't known.
Well, it hasn't been addressed.
It hasn't been addressed.
It has not been addressed. And who's going to address it? If she wanted to, if the reporter here wanted to be thorough, she'd have called up Chief Ignacio and said, Tory was found not guilty. He got his Glock back. Are you going to hire him? And listen to Ignacio hem and haw, put the hem and haws in her story. But just to say it wasn't clear, it sounds like, well, maybe it could happen.
Now, is there thresholds of conduct outside a uniform that police officers have to adhere to here on Guam?
Absolutely.
So was there any adverse action outside of the courts that was done?
As I understand it, he resigned. Now, I don't know if the police department started adverse action proceeding before he resigned or if he resigned so quickly that they didn't have time. Those are important questions. Yeah. Okay, moving right along here. To the seventh inning stretch.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point. Sunday brunch at Mezcla Bistro in Hagåtña is back, hotter than before.
Come and enjoy Mezcla's true taste of Guam.
At only $28.95, enjoy your Sunday with your friends and family with their free-flowing house mimosa or house draft beer from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Let Mezcla serve up your favorite local foods. Call them at 479-2652
or 479-2653 to book a reservation. Limited seating available.
Mezcla reminds everyone to be safe and stay sanitized. Sunday brunch at Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
Okay, so here we are back again after the seventh inning stretch at Wrigley Field. 2 more innings and the game is over for another day. I'm going to go back to systemic discrimination versus B.J. Cruz and Josh Tenorio, something I touched on yesterday. And the story mentions, let's see, the LGBTQ advocacy group supported by the island's lieutenant governor and public auditor, okay? B.J. Cruz and Josh Tenorio. And then the quote by this lady, Leslie Herod. The more I think about it, the more angry it makes me. I don't usually get angry about stuff like that.
Queer female, what was their tag?
Yeah. So Leslie Herod, a Democrat from Colorado, and here's what Leslie said: "We need to be in elected offices so we can make sure we undo all of the harm and systemic discrimination that's been placed on our family, our peoples for generations," said Harris, who identifies as a queer black woman. That's LGBTQ people. That's people of color. That's immigrants, people from different backgrounds, anything other than the ruling class. To make sure we're actually able to have some progressive and bright futures. So you got to fight stick up for everybody but the ruling class. So I skipped over this irony. So I wonder if after she said that, people started picking things up and throwing them at BJ and Josh, 2 members of the ruling class, right?
Good question.
Yeah. Two members of the ruling class. So this kind of hate on her part is enough to anger anybody. Here she is talking to 2 high-ranking officials in our government, both of whom are on her side, and she says stupid stuff like anything other than the ruling class. So it's obvious, that it's all about class warfare, and if you're not the right color, the right sexual perversion, even if you are, you could still be the enemy if you're in the ruling class. So I don't know what you guys are thinking there, BJ and Josh, but to bring some moron like this out here to champion your cause, it's just going to take you backwards, not forwards. Okay, next on the calendar is more Laura Souter. And there's a story in the Daily News. The government of Guam will hold a ribbon-cutting ceremony for Isagan Finamta, its Chamorro Language Revitalization Center in Tijan. This is a milestone achievement in partial fulfillment of its mandate to study, collect, and record Chamorro-centric and Chamorro information to share with broader community archive for future generations, a news release said. Prior to the ribbon cutting, Governor Lulian Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio will sign a proclamation, and Therese Trelahi will present a resolution. That's pretty admirable. And this is all put together by Alliance, and the Alliance consists of the Comisión Ifino Chamorro, Ifinadahin Cosas Guahan, the Commission on Decolonization, and the Department of Recreation and Historical Preservation Division. Now, the Commission on Decolonization, that belongs there for some reason. And then the tagline here in this release, it will shape policy affecting Chamorro sovereignty, self-determination, and decolonization. And this is all because Chamorro is the mother tongue. In other words, we've built a little fort here for the separatists. The Daily News covers it, saying that it's a milestone for Commission, Fino Chamorro, et cetera, et cetera. And then we've got Commission Chairwoman Hope Cristobal said they've worked hard to go where they are today, and are grateful that the center is now a reality thanks to support from many. The center is a place in the Chamorro homeland where future generations can learn about language and culture. Except the other story, the other article says it will shape policy affecting Chamorro sovereignty. Now, I wonder what Chamorro sovereignty, what that means. That there would be a sovereign nation of Chamorros? Maybe the United States government will give them a chunk of land in Oklahoma? Chamorro sovereignty, self-determination, and decolonization. That's what this building is for. In other words, it's going to be the separatist headquarters. And then we have Commission Chairwoman Hope Cristobal said that they worked hard to get to where they are today. In other words, they've got a commission, they've got a staff, they've got a building. They haven't done anything at all with the Chamorro language, except come up with their Goonie orthography. And the center is a place in the Chamorro homeland where future generations can learn about the language and culture. So I don't know if you remember Hope Cristobal, who is the chairman of the Chamorro Language Commission, and who says they worked hard to get this building in place. But Hope Cristobal made some interesting remarks at one of the protests that she attended, and I think we're able to play that, aren't we, Jose? Let's listen to Hope Cristobal.
You're nothing but a white colonizer. That's who you are. Colonization. The same thing a slow murder. You're a murderer. That's who you are. Get off my island.
Sir, you need to go. You can't be policing people here and telling people how to protest or what to protest for. You need to go. You need to go. I'm against this. Yeah, that's cool, but you cannot be policing people and telling them how to protest and what to advocate for. She has a right to yell.
I'm an indigenous tomorrow. I have more rights here than you are. You came here because of the structures of colonialism, asshole. You need to leave.
You need to go.
Please.
You need to get out of here.
Please pause this.
Get out of here. When I get a chance, go.
Thank you, Pastor. Please leave. Oh, you think not
What happened, ma'am?
Well, he confronted me.
What did he say?
Telling me I shouldn't be here. I support Black Lives Matter. It's part of the colonialistic systemic racism. And I came here to support these people. He's a white man that has come here. And he continues the legacy of colonialism. He continues to fight people, individuals, my goodness. I'm a former senator. I authored the Commission on Decolonization. I'm Mamalo.
We are proud of you, Auntie. He's it.
So, in case you ever wondered who the chairman of the Chamorro Language Commission is, that was her right there. In fact, she even, Fumino Chamorro, that's Hope Cristobal, one of the leaders of the separatist movement.
Wow.
Yeah. So she spreads it a little. I mean, if you ever wondered what that gang is about, just be really careful if you go around Hope, because you could see the poor fellow who was there just really doing nothing.
You're not allowed to protest the protest.
Yeah. So that's important news. So a dedicated space for language revitalization. So it's a building in Tizon that I'm assuming the government is renting to provide this Chamorro language revitalization space. And as the other release says, the alliance will shape policy affecting Chamorro sovereignty, self-determination, and decolonization. I can't wait.
And Mr. Palsy is not invited.
No, and I have a feeling Dangin apaka hamzu mga basta. No. So that's Hope, and perhaps she's the face of that group. Maybe she isn't. I don't see anyone coming forward to say, what Hope did was wrong. So I guess it's okay to act like that to other people. If they're colonialists, if they're colonizers, you could do that to them. So obviously this is pretty objectionable from the separatist standpoint. And then let's take a look at it just from the fiscal standpoint. I make the point over and over again that what I really want to see is an effective, efficient government operating within the confines of the law, providing basic government services on at least a break-even basis. In other words, the stuff we got to have. We got to have a hospital. We got to have a police department. We got to have schools. We got to have those things. Those are the have to have. And then beyond that, there are some nice to haves. Maybe we could have a really nice opera house downtown built by the government. Maybe there are a lot of nice to haves, but of all times in the history of our island, this is not the time to be spending money on nice to haves. So here we are in the midst of a pandemic. You know, we got 35,000 people out of a job. You got the Guam Daily Post there, Jose? Yeah. What are the top 4 stories, the front page stories?
Oh, this is interesting. The headline at the top of the fold is "We Could Be Homeless Soon."
Okay.
And then right at the center of the fold, dozens line up for food aid. And then the bottom of the fold is Gov Guam revenue falls $25 million below target in 4 months. And then a little box with a feature on page 2 with a smiley face picture of the governor. Re-election fundraiser to feature cocktails at $500 per guest.
Yeah. So here we have a front page of the Post, which is nothing but doom and gloom. Homelessness, low tax collections, on and on and on. We really got our back up against the wall. So we're going to build this Chamorro Independence, or we're going to rent this Chamorro Independence Center on Tejan, a good use of our money. And talk about optics. This, along with the governor's fundraiser, kind of tell you everything you need to know about this governor and her approach to her job. Now, I understand that the governor is a little bit more egalitarian than what we thought. I just got this rumor that at the back door of the Al Dente, people would be able to approach the back door of the Al Dente, and each person would receive a small piece of cake. As in, let them eat cake. All right, I noticed.
Don't you know that she's the first openly tone-deaf governor on Guam?
The first openly what?
Tone-deaf governor on Guam.
I don't know if she's the first.
You thought I was going to say something else.
I did, yeah. You said it before. Okay, let me see who I got struggling to get out of the green room here. Another Joe and our Carl. Now there's a pair to draw to. I'm going to go to Churchill Downs first, and then I'll take another Joe and another Joe. I don't care what you say. You're only going to get one ride on the Ferris wheel today. And then after that, we'll go to our Carl.
Make every day epic. The new Samsung Galaxy S21 is here. The Samsung Galaxy S21 offers the highest resolution of photos and videos on a smartphone, which makes it perfect for those TikTok dances or class projects. With a sleek new look, striking design, and a battery that goes all day and beyond. The Samsung Galaxy S21 is epic in every way. Come into GTA today and experience the new Samsung Galaxy S21 and let GTA help you make every day epic. GTA, we start with you.
Sunday brunch at Mezcla Bistro in Hagåtña is back, hotter than before.
Come and enjoy Mezcla's true taste of Guam.
At only $28.95, enjoy your Sunday with your friends and family with their free-flowing house mimosa or house draft beer from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Let Mezcla serve up your favorite local foods. Call them at 479-2652
or 479-2653 to book a reservation. Limited seating available.
Mezcla reminds everyone to be safe and stay sanitized. Sunday brunch at Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
So here we are, Churchill Downs, Louisville, Kentucky, and I was wandering around in the grandstand, and I ran into a friend of mine named Joe. I hadn't seen Joe for quite a while, and chatted him up a little bit, and said, "Hey, Joe, excuse me, I got to get out of here. I got a show to finish up." Whereupon, guess what I ran into, Jose? Another Joe.
Another Joe.
Another Joe. Yeah, that was you, another Joe.
Hey, Bob. So regarding that Language Institute, I was watching PNC, And I don't know if I'm mixing the places up, but the governor is involved with the movement. The governor and the lieutenant governor, they're involved with the movement, and then this language is too. It might be part of another movement. But they had some people show up, and they're giving these they're like guest speakers from off island, and they're saying something to the effect of we haven't heard much from Micronesia and this and that Micronesia. And I'm looking at these people, and like, no one's correcting them. When I was a kid, never ever did I ever hear any of my elders refer to the anything indigenous regarding Guam as Micronesia.
Well,
anyway.
As a matter of fact, Micronesian has almost always been a pejorative on Guam, right?
Well, to my understanding, limited understanding, is that it's usually referred to as the trust territory issues, which Guam was not part of, although their headquarters, I think, was on Guam, the trust territory.
Up where Cars Plus is right now. That was the trust territory headquarters at one time.
But Guam was not part of the trust territories. But they seem to have come out on top because now they are all sovereign nations. We have a lot more to say, and they even told former Governor Calvo so that it really was, he didn't have anything to say, and the government of Guam had nothing to say because we were not sovereign or something to that effect. And to which Governor Calvo said, "Oh, really?" And then he had his own little opinion about that. But yeah, regarding the Language Institute, they're bringing in outsiders, and they don't seem to know the local geopolitics, and there seems to be a new paradigm, not a new paradigm, just a more dominant stance in this on this paradigm of, you're all part of this place called Micronesia. And the last time I checked, the only country that decided to name themselves Micronesia was the FSM. Not even the Marshalls, Nauru, Palau. None of these other countries decided to ever incorporate the term Micronesia in their official...
I've explained this before, another Joe, but the term Micronesia is something that some white cartographers invented 200 or 300 years ago. And they named the three large groups of islands in the Pacific. Micronesia is small islands. Melanesia is black islands because most of the people that live in Melanesia are dark-skinned. Polynesia is many islands. But those are just names on a map that some European dreamed up several years ago. It has nothing to do with the reality of the ethnography or ethnicity of any of the people involved. So is Guam in an area called Micronesia? Yes, it is. Is there a nation called the Federated States of Micronesia? Yes, there is.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it goes.
Have local people on Guam refer to them as such a term? Not so much. Anyway, these people that they've invited to this new language institute that they're referencing and referring to, somehow it's connected to this term. They were bringing up Micronesia. It came out of their mouths, Uncle Bob.
Well, once again, going back to my gloss on the whole thing, this is not about language. It's not about people learning to speak Chamorro. It's about building a little empire for Laura Souter and Hope Cristobal and people of that ilk. And, you got to have your building and your staff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when you've got all those things, you're in a great position to do virtue signaling. And if you want to draw attention to yourself, you bring some people in from off island. They don't have to know beans about what you're about here on Guam. That's not important. It's a game, in other words. It's a show.
And I fear it's not going to do very much for the language.
Not a thing.
For your time, Club. I
Okay,
appreciate your time, Club.
Okay, another Joe. And then next on the card here is our Carl, also known as the most dangerous man in the room, who's going to probably take us right on up to the finish line. Right, our Carl?
Maybe. Hi, Bob.
Hi.
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in that, countries and ethnic groups and have had languages that have evolved for thousands of years without the benefit of a single commission. As a matter of fact, to this day, there are thousands of Chamorros, maybe tens of thousands, that speak fluent Chamorro without haven't even stepped 5 minutes in a classroom. And the reason is that the family, and you pointed out before that sorry for the barking in the background.
Are we back to Hope Cristobal again, or?
Yeah, the point I was coming up to is that this is another manifestation of the influence of Antonio Gramsci, and you've talked about him several times. He's the Italian Marxist philosopher. And when he was 35 years old in 1926, he had a falling out with a fellow socialist who became a National Socialist. What is his name? Il Duce, Mussolini. And he was thrown in prison.
Benny Mussolini, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a quote that I think encapsulates Gramsci's thinking. Socialism is precisely the religion that must overwhelm Christianity. In the new order, socialism will triumph by first capturing the culture via, there's that word again, culture, via infiltration of schools, universities, churches, the media, by transforming the consciousness of society. And it's really quite ingenious, and it's worked quite well. But this is just another manifestation. People don't need commissions, and they don't need classrooms to learn a language. But the thing is, in a classroom, you can implant certain key ideas into young minds and steer the culture to advance a certain agenda. And whether the culture thrives is irrelevant. All these manifestations are for the sole purpose of advancing the movement toward socialism, and what for leftists is heaven on earth, which is communism. Although people don't bring that word up anymore because it's kind of gotten a bad reputation, deservedly. But this is just more of the Gramsci influence. And anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to chime in about.
Okay, well, points well taken, Carl.
All right, Bob. Thank you for letting me chime in a bit. Talk to you later.
So, Antonio Gramsci was perhaps the one who did more to put the idea of identity politics in place than anyone else. We've talked about this before. We start out with Karl Marx and Engels, who had the idea that the workers of the world would take over the factors of production through a violent revolution. And it never happened. So the Frankfurt School and later on, Gramsci decided that we can't do it that way because workers just aren't going to do that. So what we've got to do is hollow out the institutions of the Western world, the schools, the universities, popular customs, entertainment, etc. And that's exactly what's happened. That's Black Lives Matter. That's Antifa. That's all these crazy ideas that you see coming out of California. That's Hope Cristobal and her demonization of anyone that she thinks is not Chamorro, etc. We talked about it a lot before. I'll be talking a lot about it in the future, maybe even tomorrow. So we'll see you tomorrow.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
New infections trending down again. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. 54,000 new coronavirus cases reported in the U.S. Monday, but the number of deaths in the country blamed on the virus have exceeded 500,000, drawing a somber remembrance from the White House.
The president remembered those who have died of COVID in the past year. Too many to name, but
They're people we knew. They're people we feel like we knew.
President Biden said beating this deadly virus is America's #1 goal, and he reiterated that it will be the memory of those we lost that will drive us.
This is what I know. They're never truly gone. They'll always be part of your heart.
The president, first lady, vice president, and second gentleman observed a moment of silence for those we lost.
Fox's Gernal Scott, the president pressing again Monday for congressional approval of his $1.9 trillion economic relief package, which critics say is too expensive. The president saying,
Let me ask them a rhetorical question. What would you have me cut? What would you leave out?
Republicans have a list of things they say have nothing to do with the pandemic.
Approximately $100 million for